Oh, precious little switches. Gollum loves his Nintendo. Yes, little switches, my precious.
Gollum, are you there?
You stupid fat hobbit.
There you are, you weedy little bastard. Have a look at this.
Don't want it. Gollum has precious switches.
Behold, the Nintendo Switch XL.
No, 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 no!
It is utterly remarkable, with a larger screen and 1080p handheld playback. Oh, Gollum, your precious Switch is a complete turd in comparison. Here, have a feel of it.
Take it off us. It burns us.
Potter. Severus Snape? Wrong franchise, silly.
Oh, I guess I'll leave you to it, Baggins.
Potter, Baggins, oh, leave me with Precious.
Oh, hello. Legolas has arrived. They're taking the Switch to Isengard. Guard.
No, my Precious. Oh.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the House of Mario, episode 67, and we are the Nintendo podcast, a part of the 8-Bit Collective. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and joining me today is Simon from the Apple Slice podcast. How you going, dude?
Oh, mate, I'm doing pretty good. I'm just sitting back here with a couple of furfies and my schnitty, just smashing it down. No, that's not actually how I speak. I'm doing well. How are you, man?
Good. That was a good Bryce impression, if I've ever heard one before.
Nice.
I'm glad we're going well for getting the Furphy name out there, because it's only a relatively new beer, or in our area anyway. But
yeah, I tried some about a week ago, and then a couple of weeks ago, and then when I heard you reference it a couple of times over the episodes, I was just like, this is our connection. So.
All right, so I'd like to think we actually sold you on the beer. I'd like to think that.
Yeah, we'll roll with that.
For those out there who don't know what you do, much about your podcast or what you do, tell us a bit about yourself.
Of course. I've just had this ready to roll off the tongue.
I did not.
That's all right. Okay, so basically, if you're really into Apple technology, whether you have a preference for iPhones, iPads, Macs, Apple Watch, anything, then Apple Slice is the place to listen. So basically, it's myself and a co-host who's currently in Melbourne, and I'm situated in Albany, Western Australia. And basically, it's all about the latest Apple news, reviews, rumours, and all that sort of stuff. And we try to make it a bit unique by giving it from an Australian perspective. So there are some Australia exclusive stories and stuff that we can let people know about. And also the fact that the majority of tech podcasts are American, and obviously they're talking all about American pricing and everything's very American focused. So we like to think that, while we're on the other side of the world, while we're down under, that we can, it's not like there's a delay in receiving stuff, but it's just kind of like the experience of having, say, Apple stores so far spread out and that sort of thing, just certainly makes it different. And I'm hope that for Australian listeners, they can find some relation in that. Of course, we do have international listeners as well, so they probably just want to hear a couple of Aussie drongos just talk about Apple. So,
yep.
There you go. If you're into that, then Apple Slice podcast is where it's at.
Yeah, I absolutely love the fact that the Aussie perspective, because I'm really into Apple products as well, and I check out a lot of stuff on YouTube, and it's all American, and it's great to have you guys just break it down into the Australian perspective. Really love it.
Yeah, I mean, my co-host is South African, but is an honorary Australian, so
yeah,
you get a bit of accent mix there. So.
So I guess we'll talk a bit about. So we're both from. I'm from South Australia. You're from Western Australia.
Are you actually regional South Australia? Are you do farming?
Yeah, so we're 4 hours south of Adelaide.
Well, I'm 5 hours south of Perth. Well, alignment. It's crazy though, because WA and South Australia particularly are just I refer to as like the forgotten states. Like, I know that you're more centrally located, but really the majority of Australia is happening, and is condensed around your Sydney, Melbourne, and a bit in Brisbane. So, I mean, we're not as forgotten as Tasmania, but
No.
when you're over there, like home, like our homes, it just seems so far away.
Yeah. How do you find sort of podcasting and being able to keep up with what you need to what knowledge you need for your Apple podcast? How do you sort of work around that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of go-to sources and stuff, because we don't want to just report on everything, because there's a lot of clickbait crap and all that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? So we kind of like between myself and my co-host, we sort of decide what we actually think is worth discussing. Now, with him having lived in Sydney, then Melbourne, he has like immediate access to Apple stores and stuff, and that's where I fall short, because I have to drive 5 hours to get to one. So that's the only difference there. And obviously, with there being so far fewer stores, I'm hoping that part is at least relatable for listeners. Knowing that, just having that thing of, okay, I do have to actually drive several hours to physically go into a store. But so my main thing is just trying to get in as quick as possible with the online orders. But the actual stuff we talk about itself, it's pretty much accessible for anyone with an internet connection. Do you know what I mean? It just depends how closely you pay attention to it. But I just think it's good like that we're not both capital city based. Much like yourself, because where's Bryce? Is he regional as well, or?
Yeah, he's in the same town as me, yeah.
Oh, okay, yep. Yeah, so I was actually, on a side note, when you said that you're like, when I first discovered House of Mario, I checked out your Twitter, and you're like, you said your description was farmer, and I just immediately assumed that because you were into gaming, it was something to do with like Stardew Valley or something. And then when I actually saw a photo, I was like, oh, he's actually on a real farm. Bloody oath. So so that was cool, because where I'm like, my day job, I'm a marketing manager for a place that manufactures attachments for like ag loaders, telehandlers, skid steers and stuff. So through I've been there for like over 5 years now, and I've kind of acquired that, I need to know about the products, right, to market them. So it was a whole new world when I started, but I'm kind of like right in the sort of ag machinery and ag field days kind of scene. So, yeah.
All right. Do you come down our way often? Because there's a fair few field days around us.
Yeah. So we do, online we advertise everywhere because we sell all around Australia and stuff. But we have done stuff in those like regional ag newspapers and that. And I think we were planning to go into some of those South Australian field days next year. There's those ones that happen every 2 years. But hey, maybe I can convince them to fly me over, and I'd be like, drop in.
Yeah, there's a big field day, farming field day at Lucindale. I think about March every year. So
interesting.
If you come down to that one, I'll see you there.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And I just thought it was like totally appropriate that your last name is like Agnew. It's like you're the new generation of agriculture.
Wow, I've never heard that before.
You're just repping it for everyone out there.
Drew Newag or something, I don't know.
Yeah, anyway. That's enough about farming. So.
We better move into some Nintendo before everyone drops off.
Yes.
So we'll start with some of your favourite games from your childhood, from wherever in life.
Okay, well, this one is going to be... Now, if you haven't realised already, I love puns and wordplay, so I wanted to call this a Raretrospective, because rare games are the shiz. They were like my thing. They're what got me so far into Nintendo, and yeah, I basically want to focus mainly on the home console, so not so much a handheld. I know Rare did a fair bit in that space, but it's going to be primarily about 64 era mainly. So just to kind of give a quick rundown, the first Nintendo game I actually played, which was the first video game I played, was Battletoads. We're sticking to the Rare thing, but it actually was Battletoads, and that was when I was about 5 years old on the SNES. Around my friend's house, and I thought that was amazing. And then, of course, straight into that, we had like the Donkey Kong Country series and stuff like that. okay, and then sort of moving past that, the first game that actually, because keep in mind at this point, I didn't actually own a console yet. So I would always go around friends' houses. And the first game that actually scared me was when I was 9 years old, and that was GoldenEye 007. Because, first of all, not having much experience because I didn't own a console. Secondly, because it was a first-person shooter. And then thirdly, because it was me and my friend and his mates who were all very experienced in it. And we were big head mode, battling each other around GoldenEye. And I was just like, don't shoot me, don't shoot me, don't shoot me. And I had all him and his mates ganging up on me and be like, we're going to get you, Simon. And they shot me and I cried because I was just like, and you're running around with a big head as well and this sort of stuff. And I was just like, I don't know how to play this. Like, don't shoot me. And yeah. But anyway, I got over that and actually got quite into, once I picked up the skills, got into playing GoldenEye. I just didn't let my parents know that I was, shooting each other. Because I think they would have been more concerned about me being 9 years old playing a game where you're actually killing people. So,
especially back in those days, people.
Yes, and they were like, my parents were like highly religious as well. So,
okay,
I was like this innocent little kid just getting shot down by me and my friend and his friends.
Yeah, none of my friends actually had GoldenEye, so I didn't have a heap of experience getting to play multiplayer in that. Not until later with emulators and things like that. But
I was sort of more the person that, as I said, by this point I was experienced enough because I'd just gone around to people's places. But I was actually happier just watching people that were good at it just play it. Yeah. I love that sort of stuff and kind of like helping them out, being like, hey, look, there's someone over there and that sort of thing. But if they handed me the controller, I was a bit like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, But that sort of thing comes with experience and age. So a little side note, his actual first Nintendo console in any form I owned was the Game Boy Pocket. That was like the year it came out. So I was 10. It was the dark blue one and my sister had the teal one. So yes. I love that because again, I'd play plenty of my friends' original Game Boys, the big chunky Game Boys, the ones with the, semi-clear, translucent look. But, when they had this was like bigger screen, like slimmer, dark blue, I was like, so that was sick. And
the screen is so much better on it too.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's such a nice looking it's still, to this day it's still such a nice sleek looking nice handheld.
Yeah, because I remember comparing it to like original Game Boys, and the original Game Boys the screen looks so like yellowy or greeny in comparison as well as being smaller. But yeah, it is, and the fact it was Game Boy Pocket, it was quite literally pocket size. Like it, in terms of a handheld, it just nailed it, I reckon. And I had all sorts of games on there, but one of my favorites was like the Star Wars one, and then you had Super Mario with like the 6 golden coins and all that sort of thing. So those I really loved. Now, in terms of an actual home console, we actually rented some back and forth, like classic Blockbuster days where you rent consoles. And we actually rented a PS1 first. So I could have been a Sony person, right? Like, I'd played them around my friend's house. I played Nintendos and that, but there's just something about, like, especially, 64 come out by this point, that I was drawn to. I don't know whether maybe it's just, like, say the graphics themselves in the games were better and that sort of thing, because I'm a very kind of, I work with, now, as an adult, work with graphic design, do illustration, stuff like that. So, and back as a kid, I'd be drawing all the time. So I guess maybe I was more drawn to things that looked nicer as well, and then I kind of liked the playful nature of some of the 64 games, right? So we rented between did a PS1 and then we rented a 64 and sort of back and forth a bit. And then my birthday in 98, so I was 11 years old, like year 6, and I was literally the 64 kid. Like, the video of the 64 kid?
Yeah.
That was me. Like, that was my reaction. I was just like,
don't blame you.
Oh my God. I was just like, he runs his hands like he's trying to grab at the box, like he's trying to get into it and stuff. And I picked it up and I screamed at it, and it was, I was like, Nintendo 64, like it was so good. And I had the one with the atomic purple controller, and where you did the classic thing where you had the purple control and the grey one, and you unscrew them and make them half, and that sort of thing.
No, none of my friends actually did that. No, I
used to do it all the time,
cool.
Thinking that we were hell techie that we could like use screwdrivers. So, That was sensational. So with that, I had Super Mario 64, Mario Kart, both of which I'd played at my friends' houses before, and keeping in the segment of Rare, I had what I deem the holy grail of Rare platformers on a 64. So which game do you think that is?
I think that might be Banjo-Kazooie.
I think you might be correct.
Oh, yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
And that is what kickstarted my love of Rare games. And I actually went as far to use Banjo-Kazooie as an oral presentation that year. Like I was doing a full thing on this is the type of graphics that the 64 can do, and this is the type of style that Rare has, and I the classic Banjo-Kazooie intro. Like I played that to the class, and
well, that is awesome. That is so cool.
I was really proud. Yeah.
Were you confident when you went up as well to like share with everyone else like the game you loved?
Oh yeah, I was straight up, and I think the teacher was a bit, like teachers are, and they sort of like, what's this newfangled video games? And they were a bit like, oh yeah, that's nice, Simon. But the actual kids in my class were like, I want to play and stuff. So that was pretty
awesome,
cool.
Yeah.
Although unfortunately, Banjo-Kazooie isn't exactly a game you can just jump in and start play. Like it started the whole story sort of thing and everything. So it's not like Mario Kart we can start racing straight away. But yeah, it was funny watching one of the kids struggling to actually direct Banjo outside of his house. At the very start of the game.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was that age, like I would have been terrified to go up and sort of do that in front of the class, because I would have been playing like pretty much nothing but Pokemon at that stage, and
yep.
Like the kids outside of my friend group, they'll be like, "Oh, playing Pokemon, bloody little kid or whatever." So.
Yeah, well, I was okay. So around that age for me, around that year, we're talking year 6 for me, 98. That was like the peak of that was like Pokemon Explosion. That was like, so no one would have at that time, at that age group, would have said anything about it being kiddie, because everyone was hyped on Pokemon.
Yeah.
That was like red and blue. Like I don't even think yellow had come out yet. Like, yeah. It was. Those were the days.
Yeah. So this would have been about 2006 when I was like, it would have been Diamond and Pearl on the DS, I think.
I'm showing that age, son.
I remember going to Target to pick up Pokemon Pearl. I've been waiting for it for ages. Been reading Cerebi.net, and I went to get it from Target, and I saw another kid from school. And immediately I'm like, oh crap! So I went and hid the game, so he didn't see me like buying Pokemon.
This is classic.
And like then he left, and I went and bought the game, or Mum went and bought the game, whatever it was. And thinking back to it now, it's just so stupid. If you're
but you do that at that age, like you do dumb stuff like that, yeah.
And coming into high school, everyone's like admitting like, I never stopped liking Pokemon. I never stopped liking Dragon Ball Z. I never. It's like so many things when you're a kid, you just look back and think how silly it is.
Yeah, well, because I remember being like fully pumped on Pokemon right through year 6, year 7. Then high school, I moved to it was like a different school altogether, right? And so it's like I remember being as early as like start of year 9, still talking to my friends about, did you catch this episode of like Digimon? They just released Series 3 or whatever, and my friends like at the time looking at me, they're like, oh, that's kind of like childish, like that's kind of for kids. And I was still pumped on that like Pokemon/Digimon thing. So that's kind of when it was falling out of favor, and then it like came back in. But yeah, like for a solid 4 years there, I was just like, yeah, Pokemon. Just had the I even had my like Pokemon watch, like that yellow Pikachu yellow watch, in year 8. And I remember like with having to do like a test or something. It's perfectly quiet. This is like brand new high school, like the first week that we're there, and we're sitting down. And everyone's really quiet, and I don't know anyone. And then suddenly my alarm goes off, and Ash appears on the screen. He's like, "Wake up! Gotta go find those Pokemon. Wake up!" And I couldn't shut it off, and everyone started laughing. I was just like, "God damn it!" Like, but that
sounds
didn't.
like a really high tech watch for back then.
Oh, it was crazy. It had like the screen
was
was actually pretty decently sized. It was like the same size screen as a Series 3 Apple Watch,
Really?
But it was but it was all sort of, it was obviously like LCD black and white, sort of thing. But it was cool. That was fun. The funniest thing though is, so back in those days when you're like 10, 11 and that, and your ability to tell bullshit stories is an absolute high. You know, like when you just like make stuff up to make,
yeah,
you're basically lying all the time. You know, you're exaggerating everything. And my friends are like, "Oh, happy birthday, man!" I rocked up at school, so I just got the 64 that morning. Right, I rock up to school. I'm like, yeah, got 64. I'm like, got Super Mario Kart, Banjo-Kazooie. I was like, I finished it. Like
Legend.
I'd had the 64 for an hour, and I had to go to school, and I was telling my friends I'd finished it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, sweet!" Like they didn't even like go, "Oh yeah, bullcrap!" Like it was.
Yeah, you can imagine it now. It's like, wow, that's a short game.
Yeah, that's like Pokemon Snap level, you know. I do remember that though, playing because you could finish Pokemon Snap in like 40 minutes or something. Like
yeah.
if you just rush through it, yeah. Okay. All right. So at this stage, I was like, to give you an idea of how I am with Apple now, I was with Nintendo back then. Like they were my Apple. Like I was just so into it, and I would like defend them all the time, and I'd like research everything, and I was subscribed to like Nintendo magazine and all this other stuff. So I was like the ultimate, Nintendo fan. But in my primary school, because I actually grew up in Brisbane, the actual primary school itself was like predominantly like Vietnamese students and stuff. In this suburb in Brisbane, and they were all PlayStation 1 fans. Like, I think there was one of them like 64. And so it was me and my like 3 friends at like 64. So say that's like us 4 guys versus like 30 other kids that loved Sony. So all the time it was just like debates about, 64 versus Sony. And then we used to have handball matches, and we'd be like Team Sony, Team Nintendo and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it was fun.
Yeah, it sounds similar to pretty much what I went through, but that was the generation of the PS2, which is even worse.
Yes. Well, yeah, because by that point, that was word of around that era. Are you talking about when GameCube had come out or before?
Oh, so yeah, when the GameCube was out versus like the PS2, which everyone had a PS2.
Yes.
Everyone had a PS2, and I had nothing. Like, obviously, I had nothing against the PS2 because it's it's a company with a box, right?
Yeah.
But like if I say I didn't have a GameCube either. I just at this stage I had my Game Boy Advance SP, and I went to friends' places and played games there, like game consoles there. But if I say I like Nintendo, it was constantly Nintendo's crap, Nintendo's shit
For kids,
like,
blah blah. Yep.
For kids, like it got so tiring, and eventually it got to the point where I was sick of it, and I sort of put that, I guess, anger towards PlayStation, which is silly, because now I am a big PlayStation fan. I enjoy their products and that. But back then, it was just like, yeah, it's just so frustrating.
Oh no, definitely. Because my main thing, especially, was that like people didn't understand what the 64 and like Nintendo 64 meant, and I was like, used to tell them all the time about how 64 is more powerful and this is why the games look better and blah blah blah. But then of course by the time PS2 comes out, and then by the time GameCube comes out, they're on much a closer level, like visually. So I was a bit like, oh crap, I'm losing my upper hand. You know what I mean? Like, but anyway, back to the actual Rare games themselves. So Banjo-Kazooie, obviously, I still hold that very dear to my heart. I love how they expanded it with Banjo-Tooie, and Banjo-Tooie is definitely like a darker game, but I think because that Banjo-Kazooie was my first, that's why I still like prefer that one. I remember going psycho over the whole rumors of a Banjo 3E at the time, like what was going to come after it, and then obviously, by that point, any game came out, they would switched over to Microsoft, but. Even like down to, so as I said, I was a subscriber of Nintendo magazine system. I would have like my artwork like published in there pretty often. I'd draw pictures of rare characters and stuff. And I actually made like, do you remember Connects? Like how there's like Meccano and Lego and stuff. Do you remember?
Yeah,
Connects?
I used to love Connects. Yeah.
Yeah, so I made like a Connects model of a standing Kazooie with the wings spread out, about like as tall as I was at that time. I've got a photo of it somewhere, and I sent that into Nintendo magazine. I was so proud, like, yeah, just having this, like, the white pieces, those white, they were like Kazooie's eyes and stuff, and yeah, it was really cool. So I'll see if I can find that picture. But
that's awesome. I just used to build the the things were on the box.
Exactly. Yeah. You like you'd be the ones that come with it, and then you look at the other ones, other pictures, and try and like emulate them. Yeah, that was cool. Okay, so moving on from that, I never owned Perfect Dark, but I absolutely loved playing it with friends. So I was like year 8 by that point that came out. And at the time, I would tell people that I thought it was better than GoldenEye. I don't know what I think now going back, but I think I just loved that futuristic aspect of it. But I actually wasn't the biggest first-person shooter fan in general, so that's sort of why I didn't end up buying it. But I played it many times at friends' houses. So did you ever get into Perfect Dark?
No, I didn't. No. Yeah, I never like I said, I never had a 64 of my own back when I was a kid, so I never got my own games, and it was a lot of just what my friends had. My friends just had, Mario 64, Banjo, the usual affair which most people had.
Yes,
so,
yep.
Yeah.
That's fair enough. There was a shooting game I really loved, and that was Jet Force Gemini. I really loved that. The visual style had what I was looking for. So while GoldenEye and Perfect Dark go for kind of like more realistic look, obviously, Jet Force Gemini had the kind of clobby sort of Banjo-Kazooie style body structures to them, and the way that they kind of move around, except for this was sort of more that crossed with like a futuristic Metroid, almost anime-ish style. And I love the fact it was a third-person shooter, and then you could sort of switch to first-person mode. So that was really unique, and those weapons were really fun. Like, multiplayer battles were great. Now, one that is essentially tied with Banjo-Kazooie as my favourite Rare game is Donkey Kong 64.
Yep.
Like, damn, that is... The only reason I don't give it to that is because Banjo was the one that started it all. Like, but Donkey Kong 64 had everything. Like, everything you wanted. My favourite part was showing everyone, like, the difference in the characters and their different weapons and the instrument. And, of course, DK Rap. I'd play DK Rap all the time.
Yep.
Now, out of those, which one was your favourite? Because mine was actually Lanky, because I loved how goofy he was. And his weird kind of, like, spin-arounds and stuff.
Yeah, I quite like Lanky as well. Probably Donkey. I do like Donkey Kong just because he is just the
OG,
the main character. Yeah, the main man.
And then, of course, this was the debut of the expansion pack as well. This is like the first game that used it, which was classic because I remember, being in Brisbane, like hotter climate, I was playing the crap out of it in summer, and my 64 and the expansion pack were getting really hot, and I was like, it was like a 40-degree day or something. And I remember like being worried about it, so I took the expansion pack out and I put it in the freezer. And then like I waited till it was cold enough, and then I put it back in, and then my 64 didn't start. And I was just like, what have I done? And then I waited like 10 minutes, and I think it came back to like room temp, and then it worked. But not the smartest idea. So
let's put the whole 64 in the fridge and still have it hooked up to the TV. Maybe that will work.
Just to make it extra cool, yes. Diddy Kong Racing is a classic.
Yep.
I didn't play that as much as Mario Kart with friends because everyone had Mario Kart, but it has the lineup that you want. And while my younger brother ended up getting a PS1 and he had Crash Team Racing, like I really enjoyed that too. That's kind of when like I had like the guilty pleasures of like, okay, maybe like PlayStation is actually fun, but I wouldn't actually admit to people that I liked it, sort of thing. Okay, of course, the ultimate curveball, Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Yes, yep. One of the last Rare games on the 64.
Oh yes, it's like this cute little character that you've seen in all, in the whole lineup of characters, and then they just make him adult as fuck. Like all the humor in there and everything, and the jokes was like a huge talking point. Everyone's like, "Have you played Conker's Bad Fur Day? Do you remember this bit?" And I was around 13, 14 by then, so I was kind of like, okay,
Yeah.
Like my parents still didn't know about it, but
yeah, no, it's right up my alley. I absolutely love the Mighty Pooh, like the music stuff in that game. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is nuts. Literally nuts. Conker, squirrel, nuts. Okay. Now, one that I hold very, very dear, which is totally always gets forgotten, is Star Fox Adventures on GameCube. So that was the only Rare game on GameCube, and it was actually pushed to that by Shigeru because it was originally going to be on 64, and then he wanted to make it like a GameCube launch, right? And I'd actually moved to Albany right before the GameCube came out. So and I was around year 10 by this point. So I had it at launch day and stuff. And man, while there's a lot of comparisons to it being too Zelda-like or whatever, I just loved how, like, the visuals in that game at that time were just so good. Like, I think I spent more time actually just jumping and swimming through water than actually playing the game. Like, that was like how I felt about Rare, you know, and that visual style with Banjo, but like turned up to 11 because obviously the consoles had come so far by that point. And there was that interesting factor because I remember following the rumors of Rare are working on this game called Dinosaur Planet, and I was really pumped on this Dinosaur Planet, and that was actually Star Fox Adventures. Like, they turned Dinosaur Planet into that. Yeah. So there's actually a lot of if you see the original sketches and stuff, there's a lot of crossover with the whole staff and everything like that, but they've just sort of replaced it with Star Fox IP. But yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I wonder how frustrating it was for them when, like, Miyamoto come to them and said you have to put an established IP on it instead of doing Dinosaur Planet. I feel like that's what might have, like, hindered that.
Apparently, it was like redone. Like, Dinosaur Planet in itself, even before that point, was like 2 or 3 times sort of redone. Yeah. Yeah,
so they might have been in trouble anyway, let alone.
What was that other one they were? Was it Rare that was working on Camelot? Was it?
That was a launch title on Xbox 360. Yep.
Yes, and I remember being so pumped for that game to come out on GameCube, and then when they switched over, I was gutted because I was just like, that looks so cool. Like, you know, you'd be able to sort of translucently see like within the actual monsters themselves and stuff. Yeah, that looked really cool. Yeah.
With Rare going to Microsoft, did that make you want to get an Xbox 360, or was this around the time where you sort of got out of gaming?
Well, I was I forget what year that was when Camelot came out, but I was like as intense about GameCube as I was 64. So I was like, GameCube or die. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd moved to Albany, started a new school again, you know, year 10, and I remember like my first week there as well. So this was this first week at a new school thing. My first week there, and GameCube was due to come out like the week after, and I'm just getting to know people, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so psyched to pick up my GameCube from Toy World next week, and they just like laughed me down because they were all like PS2, Gran Turismo, this and that, and blah blah blah.
Grand Theft Auto, yeah,
and I was just like, me and one other guy who liked Nintendo, and then I actually ended up converting a lot of people to getting a GameCube after the fact, because I would like bring it around and we'd play especially a lot of the fighting games and that, and like Soul Calibur 2 and stuff like that. Yep. So that people actually bought GameCubes because they actually really enjoyed it. And then of course, you know, you got Super Smash Bros. Melee was the big one that certainly, you know, pulled people in. So yeah, they were my Rare games, and I've had so I had the 64, I had a ton of games. I sold all of that to get the money for the GameCube. I bought GameCube, and I've still got the GameCube. I've got about like 15 games for it. And I've got the Red Mario Anniversary Edition Wii.
Nice.
You know, with new Super Mario Bros. On it, love that. But then I didn't end up, and I sort of played that more casually. Got a bunch of other games, but definitely played that more casually. And by this point, I guess the reason I dropped out is because I just like I'd gone through high school and stuff, and then I started working, and I just got busy with that. And through like working and doing my my certificates at TAFE with graphic design and that's what introduced me into all the Apple computing stuff. Do you know what I mean? So I kind of that one thing phased out, one thing came in, and then it's like I bought my first iMac, and then I was like all in and psyched on that. So I've always watched things like Good Game and stuff like that when that was around to kind of keep up to date with what's going on. And I was so glad that Nintendo came back swinging with the Switch, like especially after the seemingly like disappointment of I've only played like a Wii U once. Do you know what I mean? And when it had come out, I was like so pumped to get one. But then so many people were bagging it and stuff, and when the rumors of Switch were coming out, and I was again getting back in like the Nintendo defense mode, be like, no, this is gonna be cool, and everyone's like, no, Nintendo's had too many chances, this will be crap, it'll be gimmicky, and I'm so pumped that it's just gone against that.
They've had too many chances. They stuff up one console in between.
Yeah. Well, no, I guess you had a lot of like my friends that were into all their shooters and stuff and way into PS3 and stuff by that point, and they thought that Wii was like a novelty at first because of the motion, and then because Wii was inundated with like quick party games and stuff, they didn't take it seriously. So they kind of like just had almost dismissed Nintendo altogether.
Yeah, you can make the argument for that, but I think it was great having Nintendo with the Wii with just a completely new experience, like completely different. Yeah,
and that's what I love is they've always been focused on purely the gaming and fun aspect of it, and they are willing to come up with something new. That's like they in terms of actual creative thinking, I think that they stand way out against the others, because the others are just becoming like a spec war thing, and which is cool if you want that, but it's like, now it's at the point where even the big hardcore fans of Sony and stuff aren't even getting pumped about the next consoles. They're like, oh, okay, it's just going to be a big spec boost, and here's Xbox with this Scorpion thing or whatever coming out, and so
because like late last week, news come out that someone, like an executive at Sony, said, yes, we are developing a next-gen console. Everyone's like, all right, there's PS5 news. Everyone's speculating what it's going to be. It's going to be a spec bump, like a bit of a modified controller, some new features, and, that's pretty much it. But with Nintendo, it was so exciting, like when NX was announced by Iwata, and he was saying it's a new way to play games, and everyone's thinking about what that is. The rumors are coming out, and it's like this, it's this oval which is just a screen.
Yeah,
and it comes out, but it's like, a rumor comes out, but the controllers slide off. It's just so much more fun covering Nintendo. I feel.
I mean, we will touch on this a little bit later in this conversation about the next iteration of Switch, but that part in itself is going to be not a new gen altogether, but rather a variation, as far as we can tell. But just quickly, I was so psyched when I saw like the trailer and everything for Yooka-Laylee being like the spiritual successor to, because it was from original Rare developers, but not actually Rare itself. But I was disappointed to hear that people were actually disappointed in the game itself after it came out. So did you play it?
I did kickstart it. I did play the demo, but it released April last year, 2017, and that was probably not even a month after the Switch came out, maybe just over a month. And I was deep into the Switch, deep into Zelda, deep into whatever indie games I was playing at the time, and I just did not have the time to turn on the PlayStation and play Yooka-Laylee. So I haven't even touched the full game, to be honest, because I had so much other stuff to keep me busy.
Oh, but did it not come out on Switch?
It did, but it didn't come out at launch on Switch. It came out.
Yes, yeah.
Probably at the end of the year on Switch, if I recall correctly.
Just because everything about it was like ticking boxes, do you know what I mean? I was like the colouring and the fact it was like a chameleon, and I like love reptiles, and I was just like, yes, that was going to be my reason to buy a Switch sort of thing. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, and this is actually a question I'll ask you in a bit. I've always actually been teetering back and forth of like, should I or shouldn't I? Like, do you know what I mean? But the main reason I'm holding off on getting back into gaming is just because I just do so much work outside of work and everything as well. Like, I really want to, but it's just like,
definitely a time sink.
Yes.
So it's it's like anything in life, you got to weigh up the pros and cons and get your priorities.
Yeah, it's like I'm fine sort of like if casually playing some like iOS games and stuff, and when they released Super Mario Run, I like bought that and completed that, and that was fun, so that kind of scratched that itch a bit. But talking about just Rare and Nintendo though, just to finish this off, do you think Rare could ever come back to Nintendo, or like what's the deal with it?
No way in hell Rare's coming back to Nintendo.
What, because Microsoft have them?
Yeah, well, Microsoft owned them for a long time. They were just using them as the backup studio or the Kinect Sports. They were doing a lot of Kinect games. They were doing avatars for Xbox Live for a long time, and it's only recently now they're doing what's that game called? The pirate game? It's escaped my mind. Sea of Thieves. So
Okay.
yeah, they're running Sea of Thieves at the moment, and now with Microsoft, they're really, really ramping up their first-party effort to get exclusives on their console. And Rare are going to be at, I think, the forefront of that. Whether it's continuing on Sea of Thieves support for that, or just bringing new IPs, because Microsoft need that. They need colourful characters. They need fun worlds to explore. And Rare, obviously, even though a lot of the people have left, they're definitely in the best position to make those games.
Okay, so what was games like Grabbed by the Ghoulies like? Was that any good, or?
It was okay, I think. I haven't played a lot. I got the Rare collection on Xbox One. Sort of dabbled.
Yes.
I dabbled around in some of these games. It wasn't bad. I mean, it's going back to an original Xbox game for the first time, so it's a bit hard to judge.
What did you think about the fact that they did the makeover of Banjo-Kazooie at the time?
Like nuts and bolts.
like the one they released on the Xbox Banjo game.
I don't have a lot to say about it, but I remember Bryce, because Bryce is a massive Banjo-Kazooie fan. If you didn't know that already, but he quite liked it. He was quite happy with it. I don't think he thought it was any Banjo 3, but for what it was, he was happy enough. I remember going around to his place and watching him play it, and I'm sort of like, sort of scratching my head. But I asked some guys in the Discord what they thought of what their favourite Rare games, as well as like the same question you asked me, if they think Rare will be coming back to Nintendo. So the first one's Metadox. He said, I've never played a Rare game, but I'd love the opportunity to play Banjo and Kazooie and the older DK games. Also, Conker's Bad Fur Day looks funny. If they did come back to Nintendo, though, I'd love to see them remaster B&K in HD, though.
Okay.
And Dane PV, he said, we need a deal to be done so we get Rare titles like GoldenEye, 007, and Banjo-Kazooie on the Nintendo 64 Classic. Imagine a Nintendo 64 Mini without GoldenEye. Also, Diddy Kong Racing with the very nice emoji, and Blast Corps with the cool glasses emoji.
Yes.
I actually, I've got a Nintendo 64 now. I got it for $50, like in box. It had a limited edition gold controller, and it came
the
with
gold,
and it came with a box copy of Blast Corps.
Oh, nice.
I haven't plugged that 64 into the TV. I just left it in the box, but
I remember the ads for that at the time. So you remember Australian Olympic swimmer Michael Klim?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he was the guy that was like the face of the 64 Gold Edition adverts.
Oh, okay.
So it'd be like the ad would go like he's like swimming like in the Olympics or Commonwealth Games or something, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he's like ahead of the pack, and he like touches the end of the pool, and he's like, he's won gold. And then there's like him like holding the gold 64 controller up like a medal.
Is that what that gold's based around, the Olympics, or was that just a coincidence?
I think that's a coincidence. I just think it was like because they could see, at least for an Australian audience, the tie-in with like, hey, let's get this, highly recognizable figure. And I was like, Michael Klim's my favorite swimmer. Like I hadn't even really watched him much. I was just like, because of that ad, I was like, yep. I was like, he's the best swimmer in the world. Like, people would ask me, and I'll be like, yeah, Michael Klim's the best. Yeah, he's going to smash him. He
you
wins
got
gold.
paid by Nintendo. You're a great swimmer.
Unless he swims like Mario, which can be a bit bobbing up and down sometimes. So,
just before we go into the new model of Switch talk,
yes.
We'll talk about the new Pokemon that was announced. What were the last Pokemon games you played?
Oh man,
Are we talking back on the originals?
I mean, you talking about actual games, or you talking about Pokemon Go? Because
Pokemon Go can count. But what were the mainline Pokemon games?
Oh man, it would have been. I had a go of Black and White.
Yep.
Because my brother owned it. And he also had Diamond and Pearl. But basically, I went hardcore, original with red, blue, and yellow. And then, of course, the gold and silver. And I was massively into Pokemon Stadium as well. I had both of those.
Yep.
But
nice.
yeah, I think in terms of actually giving proper time into it, it would have been Gold and Silver era. Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah, wow.
But I still love it. Like I still, like I went and rewatched all the original series and all that sort of stuff. And it's a classic though. Like
Yeah.
and I'm introducing my kids to it as well. And
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
Nothing gives me a warmer feeling than rewatching the original series of Pokemon.
it's so
Nothing.
good. Like it
Nothing
really
makes me feel happier.
Yeah, because I was like hardcore into like Cheese TV and stuff, and that was like Australia's introduction to Pokemon. And yeah, so I would like religiously just watch that like every time. It was cool to be at the right age when it was happening for Australia, like when it really kicked off. And the Pokemon movie, I remember seeing that in cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I never actually saw the series much on TV. I forgot where we were. I wasn't even 5. I was really young. I can barely remember it, but I can remember we're in a motel room and parents were watching Ozstar and Pokemon come on TV, and I didn't know what it was at all, but I remember just loving it.
Yes.
And when we went away, I don't think I thought about it. I can't really remember, but I remember at school like just getting the like the videos, and I might have had 4 videos, and I just used to watch those over and over. I never actually got to watch the whole series like, through as a kid.
I wonder which gym you got up to.
I had like the 3rd video, so that would have been 7 to 9,
Okay.
or 6 to 9, or whatever it worked out as.
Yeah.
And watching them, I remember the episode when Ash and the gang met the Eevee brothers.
Oh yes, yes.
I love that episode. And you know how they have the feast?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I used to always love putting that video on while I'm eating. It just made me want to eat.
That's so good. I'm always drawn to like series of things, or like that's why I loved like the whole Eevee and that episode, and that because it's all elemental. Like I love stuff like that. I love the fact that within Pokemon there was a cool variation like that. Like not everything had to be small, medium, large. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I used to around the time I was peak Pokemon, I used to draw my own Pokemon. Like I used to draw this is the evolution beyond Charizard and stuff like that. Like
We'll get Digimon.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it was kind of like maybe inspired by that as well, because Digimon was exploded a bit later. But
Charizard,
yeah.
Digivolve 2, Metal Charizard.
Oh, just while we're here, before we talk about this super exclusive, super cool, highly unique new Pokemon, what's your favorite Pokemon?
Oh, I've got a handful.
I've got a handful. It's not a Pokemon.
No, it's not. It's not. Some Pokemon have weird names, especially in the later gens. But yeah,
Running out of ideas, I guess.
Yeah,
as you say.
But I really like. This is cliche. Love Pikachu. I went through a phase where it's like, oh, Pikachu's. Everyone loves like Pikachu's the main thing. I hate Pikachu. No, I love Pikachu. He's one of my favorite Pokemon. Absolutely love him.
Yeah.
Charizard, Lapras, Tyranitar, Heracross. I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay. Mine, I don't really like or care for the 2 stages below it, but Pidgeot, for sure, that hair looks so badass.
Yeah, I always used to get one and call it Ace.
Oh, okay, nice.
For whatever reason.
Or Flying Aces, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Okay, so Pokemon, what is this? Well, it's got a name now, but basically you and Bryce were talking about this a couple episodes ago, and that's why I wanted to ask whether you'd actually confirmed the fact that it has been confirmed, because you were sort of saying, oh, there's this thing that's appeared in Pokemon that looks like it could be a glitch or whatever. But yeah.
It just looked like a big mess just from the screenshots I've seen, but now that it's actually illustrated, it's like, okay, it looks a bit cleaner now, obviously. But its name is Meltan.
Yeah.
And this is from Bulbapedia. This is the biology. So Meltan is a small Pokemon with a shiny, silvery body made of liquid metal. Its head is a golden-coloured hexagon with a large circular hole in its centre, resembling a I can't get it out of my mouth.
Hexagonal?
Hexagonal nut, thank you. Floating inside its hole is its eye. Of course it is.
That does not sound right.
No, yeah, almost. Yeah. A red tail extends from its body with two precisions at the end.
I don't like the tail.
Yeah, it's a bit weird there. It's kind of
the tail's like I the reason I don't hate on Meltan is because the honeycomb just reminds me of Banjo, like just some golden, like reminds me of the golden puzzle pieces or something. But I do know what you mean. Like upon first glance, when you first saw those screenshots, it does look like a variation, like a metallic ditto. But I don't know. I guess it's kind of cute. Like, I just don't like the tail. Just seems a bit tacked on. But
it's interesting. And in the trailer, they sort of alluded to its being able to change forms or evolve, because they had like a shadow of like it changing and becoming like this big. So I don't know. They might even like all lock. They might even all lock together and do something.
Yeah, well, like Magnemite style or something. Like
yeah,
that'd be wicked.
Did you find one in Pokemon Go?
No. I got to sort of get like that again. The same thing. It kicked off. Everyone was playing it, and then and then I just sort of had stopped it. But I know that there's definitely an active group where I am, so I should get back into it for sure. Yeah,
my first news of it was actually one of our listeners, Jamie Penning. He posted on Twitter saying, "What the hell is this?" And I'm looking at it. I'm like, "Huh, I got no idea." It looks like It just looked like it, especially in the actual model. It just looked like a Ditto with the thing just plonked on its head. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, right.
And especially when it was confirmed that it was a Ditto, because when you catch it, it turns back to a Ditto. It's like, oh, maybe it was just a glitch.
It's a dittoing Meltan.
Yeah. So basically, I think like the idea of the story is that like all these Ditto, they must have come across these ancient Pokemon, and they transformed, and then they've gone back to their home, and that's how the professors have discovered this Pokemon, supposedly.
Yes. Yeah. One last thing to wrap up Pokemon. Like, how cool is just the fact that, like, the whole Psyduck Golduck thing, like, or just even Psyduck in itself. Like, I just love the fact that it's like this stupid Pokemon that makes dumb noises, right? And stuff, and everyone thinks it's a butt of all jokes, but it is like, when it gets its like psychic power on, it is insane. And then the fact that it evolves to something that looks cool like Golduck. Yeah. Like I just love the fact that everyone it's almost like, I think the reason why I'm drawn to that is because it's almost like, you know, like the nerdy kid at school getting picked on, and it's like, you're stupid, you know, blah 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 blah, and then he comes back and he's just like, I'm strong as fuck. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
he's really powerful and can use psychic abilities, and he's not just an idiot duck. Yeah.
And when he is doing it, it looks nuts. Like, he doesn't look like. That being said, anytime I got the Psyduck card or anything in Pokemon cards, I was like, ugh, another Psyduck, whatever. But
yeah. And Misty never ends up evolving her Psyduck either.
No.
In the Sun and Moon anime, they do like a reunion episode, and
okay.
And Misty rocks up and she's still got her Psyduck. It's like, come on, hasn't evolved yet. Like, what have you been doing for 10 years?
Yeah.
What have you been doing?
And she always goes nuts. Like, when she goes crazy, it's hilarious.
No, she did get to the point where she actually loves Psyduck and she's nice to him.
Yeah, but I mean, that's like Pikachu, because he evolves to Raichu and then devolves. Is that what happens to Pikachu? Does he becomes a Raichu? No,
he never becomes a Raichu, because if he becomes a Raichu, he'll never be able to go back.
But wasn't there like some episode where like a Pokemon was it a Raichu to back to a Pikachu, or
there was an episode when he was thinking about becoming a Raichu to beat Lieutenant Surge.
Yeah, I remember that.
But but like Ash puts the Thunderstone next to his bed when Pikachu's in the hospital from losing really badly, and
yes, yeah. I just remember there was a episode where it must have been a different Pokemon like devolved, like it got beaten so hard it went a step back or something. Is that?
I think you're thinking of Digimon.
Oh, okay, yeah,
probably.
Damn.
Because I remember because in Digimon, there's Edamon beat like the Digidestin so badly that all their Digimon went back to in training, which is like almost a baby stage.
Yes. Yep.
So and they had to they didn't have any protection from them, and good times. This is a very nostalgic episode. I like
this. Yes, yeah. Oh, and sorry, lastly on there, speaking of Digimon, my favourite was Piedmon. You know, like that villain, that clown.
Oh, yeah.
He was so cool. I wanted to dress up as if I could cosplay at that time when I was watching, I wanted to go as him because he just loved his black and white mask. And he's like, I've always drawn to villains that are like tall and skinny. So like Jafar out of Aladdin's my favourite animated movie, and Jafar is my favourite villain. And I just love that, like when they just look like deceiving as hell, and yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I absolutely loved Agumon. That was by
yes,
and Greymon and Metal Greymon. How cool is Metal Greymon?
He's just strong as hell. Like
absolutely love it. I got to go and watch. There's actually a new anime, Digimon anime, which is with the original cast and they're adults in the real world and stuff. I haven't gone back and watched it yet.
Oh.
It sounds really cool.
No, because was it Digimon series? I'm sorry, this is total nostalgia. I'm thinking back. So you got the original Digimon series, and then you got I think it's that third series where the original kids are grown up, and then there's new kids with new Digimon. Is that right? Am I thinking?
Yeah. I didn't follow Digimon much after the original sort of story, but yeah. Cool.
Okay, speaking of things evolving,
yes.
Nintendo Switch.
Let's move on to that. So, we talked a bit about this. Was it last week? So there's rumors going around that there's going to be a new Switch model. The Wall Street Journal has supposed information about Nintendo releasing a brand new model of the Switch next year, late 2019. I'm really excited to have you on for this because you're obviously super into your tech and talking about iPhones, iPads, all this type of thing, and the Switch having obviously being very inspired by tablets because Nintendo obviously has a bit of a thing with wanting to have
touch
their own tablet and touch screens. So what do you think a concept could be for a brand new Switch?
Well, first of all, I made one.
Yes,
which was I took an existing high-res image and I edited some stuff around, but basically I didn't know of current Switch shortcomings, so I didn't know that people had an issue with stuff cracking or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I thought, okay, they'll call it a Switch XL, and the reason for that will be the screen will be the physical size of the console will be the same, and the screen will be larger by reducing the bezels and making that bezel uniform, which is classic, Apple inspired.
Yeah, that's classic Apple talk right there. Yeah,
yes,
get rid of the bezels.
Yeah, bezels and bezelless and all micro bezel and all that sort of stuff. That's been the hot word for the last 3 years. But
yeah, definitely.
I don't think they will round the corners of the screen or anything. As cool as that could be, I think they'll keep it sharp edged. So that being the primary difference, and obviously inspired by the fact that there's 3DS, 3DS XL, all that sort of stuff, and I think that to go with this, to give the Joy-Cons a bit of a splasher new design, I did some duotone, like a red and grey, and I'm guessing other colour versions too, and I made the kickstand twice as wide. Because as far as I can tell, some people had issues with the kickstand. I don't know. Is it because it's too skinny? I'm not really sure.
No, it's just a bit flimsy, really. It's okay if you put it on a hard table, but if you put it on something like carpet, it's not going to stand up.
Okay, so you could be just assume that it's thicker, and I made it twice as wide. So, and people like Buddy Watson from Dash Culture and stuff,
friend of the show, yes,
friend of the show. and also, I mean, I originally met him via his previous podcast, Review Culture, but he was talking about, Bluetooth support for
yes,
and all that sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, include that too. Tick those boxes as well, because as far as visually, I don't need to show that. Do you know what I mean? So, I actually spent most of the time not on the physical changes, but the logo itself. It took me I definitely overthought it. I'm like, how are they going to make the logo look different but retain it the same? And because it's central, like the words Nintendo Switch and then the icon above it, just slapping an XL to the right of it wouldn't be right. So then I kind of I ended up making the word Switch and XL and that little bit on the side the same width as the word Nintendo. And then I added those little corner bits around the icon as a way to visually sort of show, hey, the screen's been made larger, like expanding the corners. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was my reasoning behind that. But all of that and the fact that I think it'll be 1080p support, 60 frames per second in handheld mode, and then just general spec bump anyway.
Yeah, so you think it will have some different tech inside it, maybe an updated Tegra chip or a bit more RAM?
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go the classic Apple way, and it'll have this improved chip, which is X amount faster and can do this, blah, 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 and but still retain the same form factor. I certainly think it's possible. I don't think they need to go... maybe it might be slightly thicker, but I still think that the way the Joy-Cons connect will be exactly the same. I don't think they're going to make you buy new Joy-Cons.
No, I hope not. You're from a world where you're sort of used to this sort of upgrade every year.
Side. Yeah. Yep.
But for gamers, we're sort of if you're not a PC gamer, obviously, Microsoft and Xbox are just starting this where they're doing mid-year cycles with the PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and Nintendo's obviously doing it too with the new 3DS. But that didn't come out for, was it? I can't remember. I don't know how many years, but it's at least 4 or 5 years. With the Switch sort of already, this will be a bit over 2 years when this comes out.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you think it'll be that big an upgrade? Compared, with what you're saying?
I reckon everything we said could happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so put it this way. A 3DS XL cost more than a 3DS. Did it replace it, or was it just an option?
It replaced it, yeah.
It replaced it, okay. And was there a price difference?
No, it wasn't. No. Came out at $250. Yeah.
It's and this is the one thing I've actually realized by being so long in the Apple space, going back to looking at video game consoles and pricing. I'm like, what's everyone complaining about? This stuff is cheap. Well, I'm so used to spending so much. I'm so used to much of spending stuff on tech, and you guys were complaining about when you peed on Dash Culture about this is the price for this controller. I can't believe this is this much. I'm like, that's cheaper than my watch band I'm wearing. It's I mean, you grow used to stuff, right? And obviously there's certain things that all these Apple products they're not made from plastic. Do you know what I mean? I'm going for a certain thing. If they suddenly pulled out, a plastic iPhone again, I'll be like, oh, I don't want that. Do you know what I mean? So, but with video game consoles, it's fine because you can get away with that and it still looks, sleek and all that sort of thing. So, yeah.
So do you have a Switch at the moment? You don't have one, do you?
No, no. That was my final question to wrap off the episode after this was to try and convince a lapsed gamer to buy a Switch, me being the lapsed gamer.
So, yeah, what would you want? Is that what you'd want from a Switch, a nicer looking Switch which runs a bit faster? Is that what you want?
I was fine. It's not until now that I look at it and used to obviously the evolution in Apple products and stuff that I'm like, oh, those bezels are massive. Do you know what I mean? But I think that would take a bit getting used to. If they did do something along the lines of the concept I did, it's certainly, I don't know, it just seems like it's certainly possible. And in terms of the games available for it, there's plenty enough for me to choose from already. It's not like I'm hanging out for a certain game. My ultimate dream was if Rare came back and made games for Nintendo and they put out stuff for the Switch, I'd buy it straight away. I don't care if I have time, I'll make time. I mean, that being said,
You'd be waiting a while for that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. While I do go on about, and in this episode we were focusing on Rare, I am a huge fan of just Nintendo's actual IP itself anyway. Like, I'm Mario all the way, do you know what I mean? I played equal amounts of that as Rare games. I just wanted to have an excuse to use the word retrospective. So, yeah. Okay, so before I actually decided on the fact it was going to be called XL, I wanted to call it Switch SP because like that cool throwback to GBA SP. But looking at the differences between GBA and GBA SP, I don't think that naming is warranted.
Yeah, it's completely different.
Because that was a big physical difference. Yeah, there's no way they're going to suddenly change the Switch to like a flip top. You know what I mean? Like,
on the name of like Switch XL, unless the actual unit itself is getting bigger, I don't think they would call it XL. If it's just like the screen getting bigger,
I mean that screen's a fair. Like, what was the percentage difference? Do you think that this, like, looking at the current Switch to the one I did up versus 3DS to 3DS XL, do you think that's the same percentage of screen increase? Because it looks like a fair bit because those bezels are quite large.
When the 3DS XL come out, that was a godsend because the screen on the original 3DS was way too small.
Yes.
Compared to your phone and like the PS Vita at the time, it was just so hard to actually. I found it so hard to pick up my 3DS and play it. But when the XL come out, it was like, a normal size screen. Thank God.
Okay.
But like with the Switch at the moment, it's already so big, and like the screen, while there's plenty of room for more screen, it's still a big screen for a portable handheld.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is hard to tell without me having, like, I don't actually own one. I just think that at least, okay, if they're going to give it an update, it's going to be an iterative update. Like, it's not going to be anything greater than the specs that we've laid out here, right? Like, even if it is just, maybe the screen doesn't change, and maybe it is just a spec bump. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's, and then what do you call it? Like, yeah.
Don't know.
Switch boost.
They'll probably just call it a new Switch or something silly.
They'll call it Nintendo Switched, like plural, like
yeah.
Or I said, I joked around and said it could be like filled with LED, like specced out with LED lighting. It could be called Light Switch.
Yeah, it depends on what sort of market they want to sort of tap with this too, because. Like, they might want to do a premium Switch and make the current Switch cheaper so families can buy it for, like, each of their children. Or they might make this, like, the 2DS equivalent, which is a cheaper Switch, which is smaller and maybe doesn't come with a dock or something like that to get the price down. It's sort of hard to know. Like, if we know that it's going to be a premium upgrade...
that is the classic, like, Apple fashion. Do you know what I mean? Make the current models cheaper, and then here's the one with this. These are like the new features, and these features become standard for like what is, from that point on, sort of thing. Similar to what they do with like the watches and stuff. So, yeah, that's at least like from a semi-outsider perspective. So while I still keep up to date enough with Nintendo, and I'm especially now even more up to date by listening to House of Mario, Australia's greatest Nintendo podcast.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is. Because I don't physically own one, this is just, as I said, a bit of an outsider perspective, but it would be cool to see it would definitely make it more attractive. Like, the Switch is already attractive enough, but if there was something to really kind of like push me over the line, it would be something like this.
So the games are there, and like, is it just that you want a more attractive piece of hardware? Is that what will...
No, it's the fact that I know currently that by getting one, it'll just like this. If I had like all the spare time after work and stuff like that, I would have already had one by now for sure. But knowing what it's like with that and family commitments and having kids and stuff, that's what's been. I've always kind of put excuses in the way to get back into gaming, but having the fact that it is portable, that really helps. Like, a lot,
it does,
so much.
Like, I wouldn't have finished The Legend of Zelda like knowing how big and long that game is if it was just
Wasn't
on a normal console, but having it on Switch, I played it while I was cooking. I played it while I was in the car. I played it for 20 minutes, like on a lunch break, and like it really adds up. Like these huge games, you can just chip away at them, and that's been one of the most. I don't want to use the word revolutionary, but it really has changed the way I can sort of get games played and finished, because a lot of these bigger games, like Assassin's Creed Odyssey at the moment, that game looks awesome. I really want to play it, but I just know I won't have the time and I won't finish it and I won't play it. So I'm not going to worry about it.
The Switch really is a game changer, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah, okay, so Switch XL, if they did that, like, I guess that's what I'm saying is, if they made it just that much more appealing, like it already is very appealing enough for me to justify the fact that, hey, I'm just going to go bite the bullet and get one. It'll probably be something like this.
Yeah, because I'm the type of person who like, if they do like a spec bump and get rid of, like, make the bezels smaller and bigger screen, and maybe with the extra power it can do 1080p in handheld mode and just like nice things like that.
Yeah, I think that the 1080p factor, yeah, definitely. I think the 1080p factor will really, because I'm so used to like staring at like super high density displays and stuff like that.
I am too, though, but you don't notice it. It still looks stunning. Like,
yeah.
With the especially Nintendo games that use like the colorful art style.
Exactly. Something like Zelda is so stylistically attractive that, you know, I actually totally agree. Like, while I just said the comment about, you know, wanting sharper things and stuff, when it comes down to it and you got game reviews being like, oh, it's only, you know, 720p, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but this art style is just so attractive and more unique than just playing a generic Armageddon-style first-person shooter. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. At least, they're the types of games I'm into. They don't necessarily have to be like all totally family friendly and stuff, but just those adventure platformers, just it's like colourful without being, but cool at the same time. There's something unique about it. That's what drew me to Rare. That's why I was talking so much about Rare before. And they pulled that type of thing off with Zelda too. So while I really appreciate what they did with Wind Waker, I certainly much prefer what they've got with the latest Zelda.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, when I think of Nintendo art style, I actually do think of Wind Waker. If I'm feeling down or something, and I'm thinking about games, I'm thinking about Nintendo. Wind Waker is quite often the game I think about. Just how pleasant it is, just being in that world. I absolutely love that game.
I defended that game a lot because I had it
back
when it came out.
Zelda days, yeah.
And the reason I defended it so much is because I remember my sister walking in and being like, "Oh, this game's graphics are crap," and I was like, "Its cell shading is so advanced, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes." Like, blah blah blah. I'm like, you know, the polygons, it's like they're bending and all this other stuff, and because it didn't look realistic and it was like a literal. Yeah, I guess she couldn't separate that factor, right? And I had so many people being like, you know, being into obviously Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, and then this comes out and they're like, it looks shit. Yeah. And I'm like, no, this is cool. This is a totally different take.
It's definitely like, the best looking GameCube game, and probably one of the best looking games of that generation to this day. So it definitely paid off for them.
I mean, I'm still, again, having been out of the gaming thing for a fair while, I'm still like relatively impressed by playing some of the GameCube games and that.
Yeah.
Like I've got like F-Zero GX and Rogue Leader. Oh, love Rogue Leader.
Star Fox Assault on the GameCube. I was watching the IGN live stream for E3 2015 when they announced Star Fox Zero, and they were talking about what Star Fox what Star Fox might be announced at this year's E3, and they were showing footage of Star Fox Assault, and I was watching it while they were talking about it, and I was like, wow, this game looks really good. Like in 2015, and it's like pretty much 10 years old at that point.
Yeah.
And then the Direct started, and they announced Star Fox Zero. I'm like, this game looks the same graphically, like as Star Fox Assault did on the GameCube.
Yeah.
And I think that's more to show how good that game looked back then, not how bad Star Fox Zero looked.
Yeah, that's the things. Okay, so that sort of example kind of is what I always come back to between original Super Smash Bros. And then Melee. Is original Super Smash Bros. Didn't use 64's full power. To me, like, I was just like, oh no, like, 64 can look better than this. And then when Melee came out, I was just stoked that it used much more of, like, GameCube's graphical power, at least to me. Just because I used to hold, like, a certain bar of, like, you know, Rare being, like, the best looking games. And then when you had original Super Smash Bros. Come out, I was a bit like, oh, you know.
Yeah, it was definitely like the testing bed, the 64 version. When the GameCube version came out, it was just blew us all away.
All right. I mean, I could sit here and talk about, you know, all sorts of past games all night, but I guess you could probably save that for another episode.
Yeah. Welcome back anytime if you'd like to discuss any Nintendo games.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you could even do like you know how you guys did your best Mario Karts. Have you done a best Super Mario's yet?
No, not yet, no.
Yeah, I'd be totally in on that because I have played, in terms of, like, if you're talking about, like, Super Mario 64, Sunshine, Galaxy and that, I've played all of those, so I'd definitely be in to talk about that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome. That's a hell of a list, isn't it? Like, the Super Mario games,
Oh, yeah, they're just quality.
Actually, just before we go, in the weekly topic on Discord, Delfino Durance has just got his answer in from before. He said, well, by the time I was playing Nintendo games, Rare had already been sold off to Microsoft, so I don't have any sort of history with Rare.
Oh, no.
But they seem pretty okay with Microsoft after the Rare Replay collection, but I'm not so sure how they will move forwards. So, yeah. I think we all agree with that. Just hopefully... I think their involvement in actually being let loose and being able to make CFEs is a good start. And we'll see.
I very nearly dipped my toe into the Xbox scene when I'd said sort of like gone out of gaming in general, and then it was pretty much becoming like Xbox versus Sony. That was what everyone was talking about. And then when Xbox was starting to look like the underdog, I felt like I needed to just get one just to like support them, do you know what I mean? And knowing that they had Rare, like I was like, almost, but I was like, nah, I'm not into Microsoft as a company in general. Like I'm not that into it. So I was a bit like,
Mr. Apple,
yeah. Oh no, but I mean, like I don't like the years of Microsoft versus Apple is way gone. Like, do you know what I mean? Like that's not even really much of a thing anymore. But
definitely,
like it was. So. Please, can we just start like a petition, get Rare to... I mean, sure, there's petitions to get Rare to come back to Nintendo, but...
I'm sure the petition will work. I'm sure that will be the answer.
Really.
Works every time. All right, guys, thank you very much for listening to the House of Mario, episode 67. Simon, where can they find all your stuff, all your Twitter, all your everything?
All my everything.
Everything.
Okay, if you're keen on Apple Tech especially, and we do cover other various things like, you know, maybe we might talk about the latest Google event and that sort of thing, just to try and get a bit of a Android perspective as well, but it is predominantly Apple, so we'll give you heads up about that. But if you'd like to listen to Apple Slice, search Apple Slice in your podcast player. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search Apple Slice Podcast. And myself personally, like where I posted my Switch XL concept, my own Twitter is @SwordToPen. That's SWORD 2PEN. And yeah, it's been great jumping onto the House of Mario. Good nostalgia trip.
It was,
and awesome. I mean, it's cool to just, like, I'm part of a podcast network called Ozcast Network, and you guys part of 8-Bit. So I'm kind of like, I'm well into listening to all the different 8-Bit podcasts and stuff, and Ozcast themselves have a huge diverse range too of podcasts, and so it's cool that we're both these kind of like, we're both admittedly not massive big success podcasts, right? But we're both just as dedicated to it, and you're like just as into Nintendo as I am into Apple, and I just love that we can kind of like, you know, grow together and like guest on each other's pods and stuff as we go on.
Yeah, it's what it's all about, just having fun and talking to people and getting our thoughts out there. So
Exactly.
yeah. You can find me on Twitter at iDruby. You can find Bryce at IVRevan, and you can find the show at The House of Mario. Like Simon said, we are part of the 8-Bit Collective, 10 podcasts coming together and 22 podcasters coming, I already said coming together, and putting some good podcasts in your ears.
Everyone's just coming together.
Yeah, we're all just coming together. Let's just all come together, have a chicken schnitzel and a furphy.
Oh, a couple of furfies, mate. Oh, love
Furfies.
froffies with the boys.
This week's Nintendo Jukebox is by Lame Genie again. It's a Die Docs remix from Super Mario 64, and it is quite good. I enjoy it a lot. So, guys, we'll see you next week, and take care. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the House of Mario, episode 67. I'm your host, Drew Agnew, and joining me... Oh no, I'll start again. I missed one thing, and I was going to say Bryce.